Before I ever became the soft-spoken grandmother people see today, before the warm hugs, the sweet potato pies, the porch rocking chair, I was a young Black woman drowning in silence. My name is Evelyn May Carter, and this is the truth. I carried in my bones for decades truth that settled in the corners of my memory like dust. Truth I tried to sweep away. Truth that clung to me even when I begged it to let me breathe. I did not grow up around softness. Softness was something I read in my little notebook, scribbling poems about love I'd never tasted and skies too wide for a girl like me to rise into. I grew up in rural Mississippi, not the Mississippi people. Romantica with magnolia blossoms and blue skies, but the Mississippi where poverty sat in the living room like a fourth family member. Where women woke up at 4 a.m. with swollen hands from yesterday's work, where every dream had to squeeze itself into the cracks left over after responsibility. My mama, Loretta, used to say, "Baby, this world ain't never gonna be gentle with a Black woman, so you'd better learn how to bend without breaking." But I didn't want to bend. I wanted to fly. And for a little while, I believed I might. I had a little notebook filled with poems I was too afraid to read aloud, words about stars, about God, about belonging, words about the kind of love that looked like Sunday morning sunlight warm. Soft, patient, but I didn't know then that love and hope are two very different things. Hope is gentle. Love can be cruel when placed in the wrong hands. At 19, everything changed. People love to say weddings are a beginning, a door opening into a life you choose. But the truth is, I didn't choose mine. My life was chosen for me. The church elders said he was a good man, tall, handsome, a voice that could shake the pews when he sang hymns. Women whispered, "Girl, you lucky," and smiled like they were handing me a blessing. That man was Charles Johnson, a man whose smile was sugar on the outside but vinegar on the inside. I should have noticed the way he looked at me, not with affection but with expectation, like I was something he purchased, something he was owed. But at 19, obedience sounded safer than freedom. Freedom was a stranger. Obedience was familiar. The day I married him, Mississippi heat clung to my skin like a warning. My veil stuck to the back of my neck. I felt sweat drip down my spine like fear in liquid form, but everyone kept saying, "You got you a husband now. You gon' have a good life. You gon' be taken care of." Taken care of. They should have defined what that meant, because on my wedding night, when the celebration had fattened, the last piece of cake had been wrapped in foil. Charles closed the bedroom door behind us and the air turned cold. He didn't kiss me. He didn't smile at me. He didn't whisper any gentle promises. He just looked at me like a man looks at something he owns. "You belong to me now," he said. Not with love. With possession. With warning. With certainty. And I felt something inside me shift like a door had locked that I hadn't even known was open. I should have run then, but freedom was a language I didn't speak. The first hit came weeks later. It was quiet, no build-up, no argument. Just a suddenly burning sting across my cheek because the cornbread browned a little too long. He slapped me so hard I saw white. My ears rang. My heart beat stuttered. My breath froze. And I understood something. This house would not hold love. It would hold power and pain. I buried the first version of myself that night, the hopeful girl, the poetic girl, the girl who believed in gentle skies. And year after year, I kept burying more pieces. I learned to smile through pain because pain became part of the furniture. I learned to laugh without joy because joy became too expensive. I learned to pray without expecting ends worse because God felt far away in that house. I hid bruises the same way my mother once hid hers, and her mother before her. Generational silence woven into our blood like a curse. When Jeremiah was born, my world shrank and expanded all at once. I had never seen beauty so pure or love so soft as when I held that baby to my chest. His tiny fingers curled around mine like he was holding on for life or maybe telling me to hold on to mine. But even as I rocked him to sleep, the other half of my heart trembled. Because I knew children don't stay hidden from storms. Storms find them. Jeremiah grew up learning fear before he learned colors. He learned silence before sentences. He learned how to read the weather inside the house better than the weather outside. When Charles slammed the car door after work, Jeremiah's little body stiffened. When the footsteps grew heavy, he disappeared behind furniture. When voices rose, he covered his ears. A child should not know fear like that, but mine did. People asked if I was okay. But no one asked in a way that wanted the truth, and I didn't know how to answer anyway. Words formed in my throat but died before reaching my lips, until one night a night carved into my memory like a scar. The truth clawed its way out. It was the summer of 1987. Mississippi, thick air wrapped around me like a warning shawl. Charles came home drunk. His voice already sharp. His anger searching for something or someone to devour. He threw his plate. He kicked a chair. He screamed words that felt heavy enough to bruise. Then he looked at my son. My sweet, gentle boy standing in the hallway with trembling hands and eyes too wide for a 6-year-old child. Charles raised his hand, and the world stopped. Everything froze. The air, the walls, the night, even my heartbeat. That was the moment something cracked open inside me. Not fear, not despair. Fire. A fire I thought had long died. A fire buried beneath bruises and silence. A fire that demanded I rise. I stepped between them. I felt my blood dripping from my lip. My knees trembled like they might give out. But I stood. I looked that man, the man who once vowed to protect me, in the eyes and whispered, "Not anymore," to words. Small. Soft. But powerful enough to split my life in two. He swung at me, but I caught his wrist. My hand was shaking. Small. Weak. But strong enough to break a cycle older than me. Strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers and still changes everything. That moment felt holy. Sacred. Like God himself was watching, waiting, whispering. Now, Evelyn. Now. I didn't pack a bag. I didn't grab clothes. I didn't grab memories. But I grabbed the most important things. My son. My courage. My chance. I grabbed the coffee can of coins I'd hidden behind the stove. 10 months of secret savings. Enough for bus fare. Enough for hope. And barefoot, bleeding, half broken, I ran into the night. I felt the gravel slicing my feet. I felt the branches whipping my arms. I felt the wind pushing me forward like it wanted me free. Behind me, I heard Charles scream my name, a sound so full of rage it felt like thunder chasing me, but I didn't look back. Not once. When fear and freedom run side by side, your eyes must stay forward. I ran until my lungs burned, until my legs collapsed beneath me, until the darkness swallowed me wholly and hid me from the danger behind me. And finally I reached Mrs. Thompson's porch. The only neighbor who ever looked at me with eyes that seemed to know he was carrying a silent war. I banged on her door with what little life I had left. She opened it instantly, no questions, no shock, no hesitation. She grabbed my shoulders and pulled me into safety. "You done carried this burden long enough, baby," she said. "You safe now." Her voice cracked something open inside me. And for the first time in 10 years I cried. Not soft tears, not polite tears, but a flood, a breaking, a cleansing, a rebirth. At sunrise. To church, mothers, women I barely even knew drove me to the bus station. No judgment. No whispers. No shame. Just love. Pure, simple, saving love. "Where you want to go, baby?" they asked. I didn't know the world. I didn't know where freedom lived. I didn't know anything but pain, but something deep inside pointed me north. "Memphis," I whispered. "I'm going to Memphis." And so I did. I boarded that Greyhound bus with one bag, a terrified child clinging to me, and a spark of hope so Smiley could have held it on a fingertip. But even the smallest spark is enough to start a new life. In Memphis, I started over. I worked cleaning offices at night. I worked in hospital kitchens during the day. I worked until my back screamed and my fingers went numb. But every night I prayed over my sonin, told myself, everything broken can be rebuilt. Piece by piece, I rebuilt myself. I found a church that welcomed me, a community that held me, a God who reminded me I had never been abandoned, just delayed. I found pieces of myself I thought were gone forever: my voice, my dreams, my poetry, my strength. Years later, Jeremiah grew into a loving man, a gentle father, a man who broke the cycle instead of repeating it. And when the world started calling me Grandma Johnson, they only saw the softness, the wise woman, the warm hugs, the gentle smiles. They never saw the storms I survived. One day, my granddaughter asked me, "Grandma, were you ever scared when you were young?" And I looked out the window at a life I built from ashes, at a soul that rose from fire, at a heart stitched together by courage, and I whispered, "Yes, baby." I was scared for a very long time, but one day I chose myself, and that made me free. She hugged my leg, looked up with eyes full of innocence, and said, "I'm glad you chose yourself, Grandma." And I smiled, a smile carved from resurrection. "Me too, baby," I said softly. "Me too." Because I wasn't just a survivor. I was a resurrection, a phoenix in human form. A woman who ran barefoot into the night and found freedom waiting on the other side. I wasn't born strong. I became strong. And that more than anything is the miracle of being a Black woman.